Our story truly begins in a dark time for the ancient Israelites, who were oppressed by their powerful neighbors, the Philistines, for 40 long and arduous years. In the small town of Zorah, there lived a certain man from the tribe of Dan named Manoah. Manoah's wife was barren and had no children, which was a source of very great sadness and deep sorrow for them. One day, an angel of Hashem, the Almighty, appeared to her and said, "You are barren and childless, but you will certainly become pregnant and give birth to a son. Now please be careful not to drink any wine or anything else that is intoxicating, any other fermented drink, and do not eat anything that is unclean. You will have a son whose head must never be touched by a razor. For this boy will be a Nazirite, truly dedicated to Hashem from the very womb, and he will begin to powerfully deliver Israel from the oppressive hands of the Philistines." Excited and utterly amazed, the woman ran to tell her husband the angel's message. Manoah prayed to Hashem, asking that the angel return to teach them how they should raise the boy. Hashem heard Manoah's prayer, and the angel returned, reiterating the sacred instructions. A short time later, Manoah's wife gave birth to a son, and they named him Shimshon. As Shimshon grew, Hashem blessed him, and the spirit of Hashem began to move him with a restless power. While still young, Shimshon went down to the Philistine city of Timnah, where he saw a woman who pleased him. He returned home and said to his parents, "I saw a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife." His parents were dismayed. "Isn't there
an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people?
Do you really have to go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife for yourself?"
But Shimshon insisted. "Get her for me. She is the one I want." His parents did not know that this was from Hashem, who was seeking an opportunity to confront the Philistines. On the way to Timnah, Shimshon encountered a young lion. The forest was dense and the path was narrow when suddenly a roar broke through. And with a surge of divine strength, Shimshon tore the lion apart with his bare hands as if it were a young goat. Later, when he returned to get married, he left the path to look at the lion's carcass. Inside it, he saw a swarm of bees and honey. He scooped up the honey with his hands and ate as he walked. He gave some to his parents, and they ate as well. At the wedding banquet, Shimshon proposed a challenging riddle to his numerous 30 Philistine companions. "Let me tell you a perplexing riddle," he said. "If you can give me the answer within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you a substantial reward of 30 fine linen garments and 30 complete sets of clothes. If you cannot, you will give me the very same." "Tell us your riddle," they said. He replied, "Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. For 3 days they could not solve the riddle. On the 4th day, they pressured Samson's wife. 'Convince your husband to fully explain this perplexing riddle to us, or we will surely burn you and your father's entire house to death.' So Samson's wife persistently pestered him, crying,
You don't really love me? You gave my people a riddle, but you didn't tell me the answer."
For 7 whole days, she continuously pressed him, until he eventually gave in and told her. She, in turn, explained the riddle to her people. On the 7th day, the men of the city said to him, "What is sweeter than honey And what is stronger than a lion?
Shimshon replied, "The spirit of Hashem came powerfully upon him."
He went down to the city of Ashkelon, struck down 30 of its men, took their belongings, and gave the clothes to those who had explained the riddle. Burning with anger, he returned to his father's house, and his wife was given to one of his companions. Shimshon said, then he went out, caught 300 foxes, tied them together in pairs by their tails, and fastened a torch to each pair. He lit the torches and released the foxes. He let them loose in the Philistines' grain fields. The crops, vineyards, and olive groves were consumed by the flames. When the formidable Philistines discovered that it was indeed Shimshon who had committed this audacious act, they promptly went and brutally burned his former wife and her unsuspecting father. Shimshon, filled with righteous indignation, then declared his intent to exact a terrible vengeance, and he attacked them with overwhelming violence, mercilessly massacring many of them. Subsequently, the Philistines, seeking to capture him, strategically camped in the territory of Judah. 3,000 men of Judah went to the cave where Shimshon was and convinced him to surrender, making him promise that they would not kill him. They tied him up with 2 new ropes. When he approached the Philistines, who were shouting with great joy and triumph, the powerful spirit of Hashem came upon him once again. The ropes that had bound his arms became like burnt flax, and the bindings fell completely from his hands. Finding a fresh, sturdy donkey's jawbone, he quickly grabbed it and with it struck down 1,000 men. Afterwards, feeling terribly thirsty, he cried out to Hashem, who opened a rock from which water gushed forth. Some time later, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek named Delilah. The Philistine rulers went to her and said, "See if you can seduce him, to make him reveal the secret of his great strength, so that we can overpower him." Delilah asked Shimshon the secret of his strength. He deceived her 3 times. First, he said to tie him up with 7 fresh, strong bowstrings. He broke them quite easily. Then, with new sturdy ropes, he broke those as well, demonstrating his immense strength. Then he said to weave the 7 locks of his hair into the loom. He woke up and pulled out the loom along with the fabric.
How can you truly say you really love me if you don't trust me?
With this persistent pressure, she pressured him day after day until he was worn out. Then he told her everything. "No razor has ever touched my head, because I am a Nazirite, dedicated to Hashem from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." Delilah saw that he had told her everything. She called the Philistine rulers. After making him sleep on her lap, she called a man to shave off the 7 braids of his hair. His strength left him. She shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He woke up and thought, "I will go out as before and free myself from them." But he did not know that Hashem had left him. The Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him to Gaza. Binding him with strong bronze chains, they cruelly set him to grinding grain in the dark prison. But slowly, the hair on his head began to grow again. The Philistine rulers then gathered to offer a great and significant sacrifice to their god Dagon and to celebrate this momentous occasion. In the midst of the lively festivities, they loudly shouted, "Bring out Samson to entertain us." On the roof, there were approximately 3,000 men and women watching. Then Samson prayed to Hashem.
Sovereign Hashem, please always remember me, your servant. Strengthen me just this one more time. And let me with one powerful blow take revenge on the Philistines for my 2 lost eyes.
He reached out his arms to the 2 central pillars, leaning against them. His right hand on one and his left on the other.
Please just let me die here now with the Philistines indeed.
Then he pushed with all his immense might, and the entire temple collapsed on the rulers and all the people who were gathered within it. The ground shook violently, the walls collapsed, and piercing screams filled the air. Thus, he tragically killed far more people when he died than while he lived. His devoted brothers and his entire father's family came down to get him. They carefully brought him back and buried him in the ancient tomb of Manoah, his father. He had led Israel for 20 years. The story of Shimshon is a mirror that reflects a powerful truth. A person's greatest strength can be useless if they do not know how to govern their own weaknesses. Shimshon received from Hashem a spectacular gift, a physical strength that no army could match. With his own hands, he tore apart a lion and defeated 1,000 men. However, that same strength which made him invincible against his external enemies did not protect him from his greatest adversary, himself. He was strong in his muscles, but weak in his self-control, in his wisdom, and in guarding his heart. The secret of his power was not in his hair, but in the sacred vow that the hair represented. It was a constant reminder that his strength was not his own, but a gift from Hashem for a specific mission. The moment he treated this sacred gift as something trivial, revealing his secret in a moment of passion and carelessness, he lost it. He didn't just lose his hair, he lost his connection to the source of his power. Our talents, our intelligence, and our strength, no matter how great, are gifts that require responsibility and wisdom. There's no point in having the power to bring down a temple if we don't have the inner strength to resist a temptation that destroys us from within. Shimshon's true and profound battle was not against the Philistines, but within his own soul, against his intense anger, his overwhelming pride, and his powerful desires. However, His story does not end in failure, but in redemption. It was only when he lost everything, his strength, his sight, and his freedom, that he, blind and humiliated, finally saw clearly. In his moment of greatest weakness, he made his most sincere prayer, not asking to live, but to fulfill, one last time, the purpose for which he was born. And this is indeed the final and most profoundly hopeful lesson we can learn. No matter how far we may have fallen or how truly great our mistakes might be, there is always a profound chance to turn to Hashem. It is in genuine humility and in recognizing our complete dependence that we ultimately find our truest and most lasting strength. Thank you very much for your kind attention. See you next time.